Welcome to Farah and I's journey, where we are visiting the Serpent Mound in Ohio, in Peebles, Ohio. And join me at the end of the video where I talk a little bit more about Frederick Putnam, because there's a lot of interesting stuff about Frederick. So, yeah, join me. This is a snake that was named after him, which is also interesting. So here we are. We're in the gift shop when you first get to the Serpent Mound, and yeah, just checking it out. There's a lot of goodies here, and I love that all the proceeds they don't go to the state. They go to help keep this place open, and they don't make a lot, and it costs $8 to park.
Come on, I'm trying to get it open. I don't want you to yank it on the floor. Do you want this? Let's see. You want me to open it now? No.
Smells good in
I
here.
already bought it. If you want to eat it. We don't eat in the car, so you better eat on it now.
They had a lot of crystals.
Well, you did.
Just a lot of souvenirs to remind you of the place that were actually quite nice.
Yes,
And a lot of
so
things that,
here.
us in the witchy and tarot community would really like. So, yeah. A lot of goodies. These are magnets. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, look here. For later. I'm only putting water in it.
I'm going to get one for you and one for me.
Oh, nice. Okay. Are they magnets?
No, stickers.
Oh, stickers. Yep.
Do you have a notebook? With the Indian on it or something?
Yeah, I have one. Definitely. Yep.
Okay, we'll put these in the notebook.
Okay.
Blankets?
Oh,
So, yeah, as I continue to browse,
look at the sticks.
I'm looking at these staffs. I think they're gorgeous.
We can make those. That birthday present I never gave you, so we
Oh, right.
rock solid shirt.
I love the music in the background, too. It's so soothing. It was just Bob and Farah. They were checking stuff out, too,
We gotta pay to park.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay.
Like I said, $8 to park, and then
Ooh, that's pretty though.
enjoy the rest of the park. It's just, it was amazing, and the energy.
Good for
I
the
mean,
fiery
was very.
For that fiery
I don't know,
attitude.
it just felt really great. And of course, we were caught in the rain. It was raining, but we took umbrellas, so that we didn't get too wet. The journal or the little notebook that I told Farah when she was asking me in the gift shop if I was going to have anything to put that snake in. And this is it. And this actually was sent to me by Carol, from Practical Mystic Carol. Everybody knows and loves my dear friend Carol. And I was wondering, because I have a lot of notebooks and I have like digital journals. But this is going to be one that I write in, and I realize now what I'm going to use it for. I'm going to write about my visions. Sometimes when I meditate, which I don't meditate as much as I would like to, but when I do, I will usually have a vision. And Farah and I did a little ritual when we were at the Serpent Mound. And so I'm going to write my first vision in here. And, not to go into the whole ceremony, but the vision was about the Serpent Mound being covered by water, but not the whole thing. The whole thing was not covered by water, just like, it was lapping up against the side of the the Serpent Mound. It's like the whole valley was covered with water except for the Serpent Mound. You could see the serpent outside, like on top of the water. So it looked like the serpent was floating on the water, but it was actually just the mound. You could just see the top of the mound. And in the guided meditation, there was an elderly tribal Native American woman that was telling me that that was the heart. So anyway, that's going to go in here a little bit more detailed, but I wanted to share that because it's kind of part of the journey that Farah and I were on. So, yeah. And then I noticed that on the notebook, look at the tail. The tail on the kitty looks like a snake. So Carol, you know what? Thank you. And, we proceeded to walk into this other room that actually had, all these
Serpent Mound Park.
Little clips of Ohio's history. That's the red-tailed hawk that you just seen, and that's quail. And there's a lot of, history of, what the indigenous people, what these animals and what these were to them, and tools and all sorts of very interesting artifacts.
Ice Age giants. Continental glaciers of the Pleistocene.
Another little interesting tidbit with that notebook and the fact that there's a cat on it is that I remember being told that, or I had read it a couple different places, but that some legends of dragons, when they left this world, that their spirits went into cats.
Tobacco.
And I see that.
Okay.
I see that sometimes when I'm looking at cats. I see like a snake's face or a reptilian. I mean, their eyes, they're so beautiful, But anyway, yeah, we're still looking at this is the, replica, little model of the Serpent Mound.
Close to Serpent Mound are two burial mounds of
so
the Indian
cool.
culture, and a third belonging to the later or ancient people. Both cultures had habitation sites.
And one thing that was actually, these are, replicas, little models of the burial mounds themselves. And one of the clerks in the gift shop was telling us that
what was inside.
there was a point in history where, it was okay to take these
So this is that bigger one.
sacred remains and, they had them displayed in glass cases, and I thought that was extremely sad that, the natives had their loved ones displayed in a glass case, but now that will not happen anymore, and thank goodness there's a law against it. So anything that had been excavated or retrieved from those burial mounds had to be put back.
We see the icons and symbols of later cultures seem to emphasize the serpent more. So there is some thought, and it is supported by some carbon-14 dating, that Serpent Mound is possibly of Fort Ancient culture origin.
Whoever built a Serpent Mound is in a class of its own. Only one other effigy mound has been identified in Ohio. But the mystery runs even deeper. Serpent Mound seems to have been built with astronomical alignments in mind.
Wow.
Serpent Mound is aligned to where the sun sets on the summer solstice. If you stand at the neck and sight across the center of the oval, which I think was the serpent's eye, and there once was a stone altar there that had evidence of burning, that alignment from the neck across that altar points directly at the setting sun on the summer solstice.
And there's more. Three major bends in the serpent form avenues roughly aligned to the summer and winter solstice sunrises. And on the spring and autumn equinoxes, both the sun rises and the sun sets. Now, ground-penetrating radar and new technologies are allowing us to look literally
Oh, so that's how they
back in time.
are able to see.
What looked to me to be a new undulation in the shape of the serpent coming off.
This is very interesting right here.
Neck, right below where the head attaches to the body. And this wasn't just a little squiggle in the magnetic data. This was a full-on shape of a coil that looked exactly like the shape and size and geometry of the other coils. It doesn't seem to fit with today's iteration of the serpent. This coil was associated with a different version of the serpent than we see today. And I think I can say with some degree of certainty that this is a case of them probably changing the plan.
Wow.
It looks to me that this extra coil was preserved because it was purposefully deconstructed by the Native Americans in antiquity, round about the time the serpent was built.
Looks like from one to the other, one was in movement and one was ready to strike.
That would make it more than
That's, yeah, the neck of the,
1,000
yeah.
years before ancient people.
The magnitude of the achievement of what these ancient people crafted on that bluff speaks to some very important purpose. It wasn't built by a couple of people on a lark. It wasn't built for frivolous reasons. It has some fundamental, probably religious purpose that it fulfilled for the people that built it.
No matter what ancient culture built Serpent Mound and for what purpose, for unknown reasons, this bluff overlooking Ohio Brush Creek became sacred ground for over 1,000 years, and perhaps much longer.
To properly honor the Native American legacy of the site, think as if you were entering any sacred site that is familiar to you in your own background. But we do not really know the entire story of this place. In fact, we know only.
So we're finding out just how mysterious, you know, the Serpent Mound is. There's so much that we just don't know, you know, and even what we do know is still considered speculation. You know, we don't know really how old the Serpent Mound is. I mean, just the fact that it, you know, it looked originally like it was ready to strike. And here we, you know, they show the plaque again of the missing coil. And to me, it looks like it's in the position to strike, even with the tail coiled. Because sometimes when a snake strikes, it coils its tail also for more spring action, let alone the position of the neck. And notice at the end of here, at the end of that little, it's coiled. Oh, and there's, oh, I wasn't recording anyway. So an effigy mound is, effigy is a statue, and then the mound is in the shape of an animal, so that's why they call it an effigy mound. And here Farah is creating a crayon wash for her journal.
oh, let's
Wow, look at that. Nice.
There's a channel.
So also
There's a
Farah,
channel
who
from
has
the
been able
tail
to
up
see
to the
auras
sky.
since she was a child, was able to see
You see
Yes, I
like
do.
energy auras. And I could, if I was able, if I was concentrating, you know, but yeah. So here we see the Shawnee and the King of the Serpents, and if you stay tuned to the end of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that also. And also, you know, a little bit more about the Serpent Mound and some interesting stuff that I found. So again, stay tuned. There's a couple articles that I'm going to share with you. There's also trails that come off of these, and they label them moderate or severe. And we went down one that I think was severe because I fell on my butt.
No,
It
just
got
video.
very muddy.
Over the top, if you can. You can't sit on it, but yep. go do something later. Oh my God. I just might have to stay thinking.
So this is interesting too. Next to the Serpent Mound, or maybe the Serpent Mound came after, but this is a Serpent Mound impact crater. So I mean, the Serpent Mound is next to the impact crater. So, you know, millions of years ago,
Really?
there was an impact here. And so I want to talk about that too. So I hope that you will join me.
Wow.
Continue to join me here, because I have some very interesting stuff to talk to you about with the Adena culture, and what that included, and the Shawnee, and the astronomical alignments. All right, hi. So I'm glad you stayed with me. So I want to talk a little bit about the Shawnee and the King of Serpents. So I showed you that that plaque, and it is the story of the Shawnee and the King of Serpents. So according to the Ten Squatwa, I'm sure I am butchering that, often referred to as the Shawnee prophet. When the first Shawnee people came to this land many thousands of years ago, several warriors were lost when they were taken beneath the sea on the back of an immense turtle. Anxious to rescue these men, the people called upon their grandfather Serpent, the king of the serpents, who was the ruler of the world below. They fasted, sang, and prayed for several days and nights, and then one morning they awoke to find a giant creature with the body of a serpent and the head, horns, and neck of a large buck lying dead and bleeding on the shore. Despairing now of rescuing their lost warriors, they cut the body of the creature into pieces, which they used for generations as a... Okay, so, and I don't know if any of you have heard of the, it's called the Shawnee Mahatmya, which I thought was extremely interesting. This is the Shawnee Mahatmya is a mythology behind Rahu and Ketu. So I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that, but I thought that it was interesting, the name, and the fact that, you know, look at his teeth. He's like serpent. He's like a reptilian god. So anyway, Shawnee tells of the Serpent King, and it just, anyway, and he's king of the underworld. So I thought that was extremely interesting. Let's see, the fact that, you know, the snake originally looks like it's ready to strike, and then there's speculation if it's even actually a snake. When we were listening to the woman that was filling us in on the history of things that most people just don't know, because there's some misinformation that is associated with the Serpent Mound, mainly because there's a lot of stuff that is still speculation, but it's maybe exploited, you know. So let's talk about the Adena culture, and that is who is responsible for, or at this point speculated that they were the ones that built or created the Serpent Mound. And so, I mean, why? I'm not really sure, but with the summer solstice, some believe that because it's possibly facing towards the east, or it's facing towards the east, that it is has something to do with the summer solstice. So the Adena culture consists of, let's see, where does it say? Well, it's various communities of ancient North American Indians from about 500 BC to AD 100. Centered in what is now southern Ohio. Groups in Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, and possibly Pennsylvania bear similarities and are roughly grouped with the Adena culture. The term Adena derives from the home of an early Ohio governor located near Chillicothe, Ohio, around the Adena-type mounds. And the Adena usually lived in villages containing circular houses with conical roofs constructed of poles, willows, and bark, though some of them lived in rock shelters. Then it goes on to talk more, about them as a whole. So included in this culture were the Hopewell. And the Hopewell have been connected to the Anunnaki. Now, and I asked this woman if she had heard any stories, and she believed that these Native Americans didn't really buy into that. I didn't, I didn't necessarily agree with that, but I was very much in awe of her information and just wanted to listen to what she had to say. I believe that the Hopewell, from some of my research, that they very well do believe in that they came from the sky, that their descendants are from the sky. And they are part of that Adena culture. So now moving on from talking about that, I just found that it was extremely interesting. Shawnee and then Shani. Okay, so I found an article that I would like to share with you. And this is it just blew my mind. We were on our way home, we're driving home, and I'm just, I had a few questions because, like I said, I believe, I follow ancient aliens. I just believe that, our descendants are from the stars. I think all of our descendants are from the stars. But I do believe that we were here in some form, and then I believe that possibly our DNA was messed with, or here's another theory. Back to serpents and the Serpent Mound. In the Bible, when they talk about the seraphim, which they were one of the types of angels, seraphim, the root meaning of that is snake-like. So winged snake, medicine. My conspiracy mind is putting 2 and 2 together, and in my mind getting 4. Getting a very stable foundation of a story here. And so there's also speculation on what the mound actually looked like. So before I read this article to you, I should clarify that. So the Serpent Mound had, let me show you this. Okay, in here, there was an extra little, almost like a nose, like, and some people think this is a turtle. Some people think it's a cosmic egg. But, they're not sure if this is the way it's supposed to look, or if that little head piece or whatever part of it is on there. And then also there's depictions where it has like these little added pieces right here. And then of course they showed you where this is happened later. It would look like maybe it was going to strike. But so one thing is that what we see now when we go to the Serpent Mound, it is restored, because I think she had said the lady that we were talking to, that it was only so far off the ground. Like now it's, you know, it's very visible, but it had been worn and you know, they knew what they had found, but it does not look like it does today. So it has been restored to what they thought it looked like then, but without these little things on the side that to me make it look like a sea serpent. Farah looked at it and she says, yeah, but it also looks like the sperm and an egg. So on that note, I'm going to take you to this article. Now, it just blows my mind. Okay, so New Theory links the Serpent Mound, cults, impact craters, and high science. So when the lush Ohio River Valley, or within the lush Ohio River Valley, lies the famous Serpent Mound effigy. It is an earthen mound aligned with the solstices, okay, which rest on the ridge of a meteorite impact crater. The ancient spellbinding effigy has been the subject of controversy and fascination. But what is so often overlooked is the fact that the seemingly serpentine mound is not one of a kind. Okay. 2 more known mounds exist. Serpent Mound Park in Ontario, Canada, which has been closed since 2009, Ontario, Canada, and Loch Ness Serpent Mound in Scotland. Okay, so let me kind of backtrack a little bit. When we first got to the Serpent Mound, I showed you these, the plaque that talked about a man named Frederick Ward Putnam. And he was the curator at Harvard at the time when they were studying the Serpent Mound. And they sent him there between the years of 1880 and 1895. He was on an archaeological study of the Serpent Mound. Now, he's a biologist and an anthropologist. So in 1874, he had become the curator of the Peabody Museum of Archaeology and Ethology at Harvard University. He was there till 1909 at Harvard. So he was very interested in early man. So also along that note, I showed you the pictures of the snake that was named after him. It was a Mexican snake named Manopolis or Mano, but the Putnami, and this, or the ridgehead snake, and it was named after Putnam. So that's Frederick. That brings him there between the years 1880 and 1895. So in going on, the mound that's in Canada was discovered in 1950. So they had already done the excavating, taking, remains out, putting them back, taking artifacts out, putting stuff back, or anything, the bones, are putting them back. But the excavation's done. They're not allowed to mess with it after that. And then they discover this mound in Canada. So let me read to you about the mound in Canada. Okay, so first, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The Ohio Impact Crater. The Serpent Mound Crater, or the Serpent Mound Disturbance, is a complex eroded meteorite crater in Adams County, Ohio. And the Serpent Mound is within it. So the Ontario, the Serpent Mound Park used to be a historical and recreational park located in Keene. Oh, okay, so now we are talking about, now we are talking about the Ontario mound culture. So that is the Serpent Mound Park, and it is located in Keene, Ontario, Canada. The park was abruptly closed in 2009. Its name comes from the serpent effigy and the burial mounds within the site. I'm not done. The archaeological excavations attributed to the earthworks to a culture they decided to call the Point Peninsula Complex. Their conclusion was that the habitation and the construction of the site occurred around 2,000 years ago. And that's another thing with the Ohio Serpent Mound, is that, you know, they're not quite sure when it was built, you know, or when it was created. But there's concluding that the one in Canada was around 2,000 years ago during the prehistoric Middle Woodland period. So silver panpipes have also been discovered in burial mounds in both Canada and the Ohio River Valley. And the raw materials of these objects came from Cobalt, Ontario, which is problematic due to cobalt's far north location. Mainstream archaeologists interpret all of this to indicate a vast trade network, and that is also something that she talked about, that these were like hot spots for trade, and trade from all over. So and the images, these serpent mounds are almost identical. So here we have one that, you know, we don't really realize what we have, but we have one in Ohio. And then, you know, here in 1950, they find one that is almost identical in Canada, but they're not communicating. They're not talking about this. That's not all. Guess what is like within, let me read this, the Ontario Impact Crater. So the Holliford Crater, which is in Ontario, is a 550 to 100 million year old meteor crater in Holliford, Ontario, just a stone's throw from the Serpent Mound Park. So next to this crater is a serpent mound that looks just like the Serpent Mound in America, in Ohio. So this crater was only confirmed in the 1950s when a series of geophysical studies and aerial photography sessions were conducted by the Geological Survey of Canada and the Dominion Observatory of Ottawa. They determined the approximate age of the crater along with its diameter of about 1.5 miles. And let me show you. I mean, this is a drawing. And notice there is a coil in the drawing at the end of its tail. Sorry about the blurry. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Okay, there's a lot of speculation. So then we go on to talk about Scotland's Loch Ness Serpent Mound across the Atlantic. All three serpent mounds seem to be veiled under archaeological secrecy, but Loch Ness Serpent Mound is the most obscure of the trio, thanks to the dedicated work of Earth mystery enthusiast and fellow Ancient Origins colleague Andrew Collins. Some information is available online, and I will link this article in the description of this video so that you can read it for yourself, because it's just mind-blowing. So and I'm just skipping through it, but it says a huge serpent-shaped mound, as well as a very remarkable object, and one moreover which rises conspicuously from the flat grassy plain that stretches for some distance on either side, with scarcely an undulation save two artificial circular mounds, in one of which lie several large stones forming a cromlech. These circles are situated a short distance to the south, to the right of the reptile. And at the Serpent Mound, in Ohio, it's the same. When you first walk in, there is a burial mound right when you first walk in, and then the Serpent Mound would be to the north. So it's south, but it's the mound itself, the burial mound, the big round one, is to the south of the head of the Serpent Mound. And it is on the right side. So, let's see, what else? Collins, drawing from the works of Feen and Cumming, goes on to report on the remnants of what may have originally been a ceremonial altar, which seems to have been deliberately aligned with 3 nearby mountain peaks. Okay, so I'm going to go on because this is what really, really blew my mind, because I told you what Farah seen when she was looking at it, what it reminded her of. And this is in the article, so I really encourage you to read the article. What is this, and what are they referring to? Sperm and egg. So now we have 3 serpent mounds. And they're all prehistoric, ancient serpent mounds. You know, and Farah had asked the lady at the counter, I think it looks like, you know, a sperm and an egg. And she was like, yeah, but think about it. How would they have known what sperm looks like? How would they? Unless there was another being that was guiding them. You know? I mean, it's too... How would they know in Scotland? And how would they know in Canada? How would they know in Ohio to build these things exactly alike? Yes, there was trade. There was word of mouth. But, I mean, what was the point of this? And why was this built next to a crater? Now, there's no proof but that the one in Scotland is next to a crater. But they are deliberately searching for a crater because it is speculation. So I need to get a hold of Billy Carson. I want to hear his take on this. Maybe he already has something on it. If somebody knows, let me know. Because this does go on. Okay, so first let's talk about the theory of panspermia holds that life emerged somewhere in the universe through unspecified processes and was then spread to planet Earth by a medium like an asteroid, space dust, a comet, or a meteorite. But again, we're talking an ancient people. How do they, you know what I mean? How do they know this? What are they trying to tell us? Modern definitive research has concluded that complex organic molecules exist within the interstellar space and within this solar system. It is quite probable then that these fundamental building blocks of life arrived here by way of these mechanisms. This means that an impact crater could be a place from which all life originated on planet Earth, worthy of reverence indeed. Sperm looks like a serpent. We have a reptilian, part of our brain is reptilian or reptilian-like. Everything comes back to the serpent. So I'm just, there's so many whys and mysteries to this that is just mind-blowing. So anyway, you know what? Take a look at the article and let me know what you think. And if you get a chance, go to the Serpent Mound. It is just, it's magical. But I wanted to share that with you. And I just think it's mind-blowing. And now the Serpent Mound is right up there in historical value as like the pyramids of Giza. You know, so I think I know why. It's that important. I just wish I knew what is significant about it. Now there's 3. You know? Maybe there's even more. So I could really go on and on. And in fact, when I was on the way home, Bob and I were just, I can't even remember some of the stuff we were talking about, or I'd share it with you, but you know, because once my mind goes down a rabbit hole, it stays down there for a while. But I love you guys, and I just wanted to make sure that I shared this with you. So I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and I'll be talking to you soon. And thank you for spending this time with me.